Morning, how are you doing? I'm in Gloucestershire today to do a site that actually ticks off two things that I always wanted to do on my channel. One is, now if you've been watching the channel, you will know that I recently did, as of recording this, a Norcon air raid shelter, which is one of the most rarest types of air raid shelter, unique in its own right. But obviously in that I mentioned that Norcon were probably more well known for doing Norcon pillboxes. Guess what we're going to do today? We're going to take a look at some, and also something else on the channel that we're going to do. We're going to do a satellite airfield. So without further ado, enjoy your history lesson. Oh, and welcome to RAF Southrop. You're going to love it, I know you are. Stay with me, come on. Over my many years of exploring, I've been lucky enough to document many World War II airfields all over the country. So it's in today's video that we finally get the chance to explore a rare type of airfield, that of RAF Southrop, a relief landing ground. Located in Gloucestershire, RAF Southrop was constructed in 1940 and had everything going for it, being nice and flat and close to several West of England training airfields, of which most were established before the war. Its purpose was as a place that pilots could fly in the morning, do their pilot training, and then in the evening fly back to their base. A grass field was laid out and a perimeter track was added, and a petrol tank storing 4,000 gallons above ground was installed to refuel the planes whilst here. It was around 1941 that the decision was made to turn it into a full training airfield, which meant that the perimeter was now tarmacked. A new larger fuel installation for 24,000 gallons underground was added, along with a T1 hangar, a control tower and other buildings such as stores, flight offices, MT sheds, instructional operations buildings, main workshops and many more buildings, and of course latrines for officers and men. The training aircraft noted as being used and based here were the Airspeed Oxford, a twin-engine monoplane designed for a variety of training uses, and the more common Harvard aircraft used for fighter training. So because the site was the instructional site, mostly in classroom teaching settings, it had around 18 huts, all with their own functions such as an intelligence library, a photographic block and a navigation lecture room, but just to name a few. The airfield was finally decommissioned in 1947, but what makes this site so special is it seems to be relatively well fortified for a satellite station. Even more so, the unique Norcon pillbox variations that scatter this site in fairly good condition. However, the main domestic area has now mostly turned into an outdoor children's adventure area, and because of this it couldn't be recorded at the time. The one feature on the site that looks on closer inspection to be out of keeping with the airfield is the farmhouse, and is more likely post-war in construction. Even though it seems to be in the mould of the remains of the site, it has been documented in other trusted sources as probably being of a later build, but noted as being on the site of possible older buildings. So with all that said, this site really is an interesting and a historic place, and one which hopefully won't be forgotten to time. Hello, welcome back. Did you enjoy that history lesson? It was really cool, wasn't it? So the first thing we need to discover or explore today, more importantly, is this. Labelled as the farmhouse, but as mentioned in history lesson, the interesting thing about this, and actually I will show you something on there, it looks incredible. I mean, it looks like a fortified sort of, from above it looks like really bad analogy, but it looks like Rorke's Drift, if you know your history, Zulu Wars, just this sort of well defended sort of outpost. But it would have been part of the airfield. And interestingly enough, you can hear a plane go over. The airfield would have been right in front of us, across that field. And we know that obviously this pillbox, Norcom one, we will go in there, a variation on it. We'll explore that in a minute. And then you've got these sumps and everything else, and it's just a wall. It's a perimeter wall. There's also a couple of pillbox sort of like interesting sections that we've walked past them actually, but we'll go back to them later. So this is the farmhouse, or labelled as the farmhouse or cottage. 2 floors. Let's go in. 2 floors. Obviously nature has repurposed this. They assumed that it would have been 2 floors, although when you look at it, I mean, it just doesn't feel right, does it? But interestingly, why they said that. Some beams there. The window, if it is, then it would have been... No, can't be. Although it looks like it could be 2 floors, I understand that. See, what's interesting is that these look like sort of little generator blocks. But it's when we go outside, there's a plaque somewhere which gives us a date, strangely enough. Let's see if we can find it. Ah, there we go. So, that is the Blue Circle Cement Company, everybody, up there. Now, you can't see that, which is a bit of a shame. But trust me when I say it says Blue Circle Cement. And the date that was given on this was 1946. Now, 2 interesting things. 1946, literally the year after the war ended. Also, the Blue Circle Cement Company. Now, if you are living in Kent, right now, and you live in Medway, more importantly, Blue Circle Cement Company is going to seem very familiar to you because they were really well known company in the Medway area. And there's a lot of links to that. There's a Blue Circle Cement plaque that was part of a video that I made on Halling's ruined church. Bishop's Palace. There we go, I was trying to figure it out. So yeah, Blue Circle Cement, and yet we're here in Gloucestershire, and there's a plaque up there that tells us. Now, the reason why, I need to really clarify this for a lot of people, because there are 2 separate records that have mentioned that this wasn't dated to the start of when this was constructed, but what they do assume is that this was built upon a previous part of what the airfield would have been. Now, the only other prominent structures that we have on this side of the airfield are, if you head down that way, I might point it out again when we come out. Down there is where the fuel stores would have been, and we know in our history lesson that they got expanded as the satellite airfield what we're in now expanded as well in importance. We'll get to the Norcom thing in a minute, but this is it. So the reason why they said in the records that this probably wasn't the date anyway, not only because it does say 1946, but also because of the type of design that this is. It's not in keeping with that, and in fact, another indicator that might suggest that it was built slightly later, is because, do you see those 2 bolts? I mean, that is the only thing that could suggest is obviously some form of storage. If it was the case, that there was a report that it labelled it as it could have been a command post, possibly, but it's obviously not a command post. It's probably just what the farmer built later using, again, 1946, so that plaque's telling us, so just post-war-ish. So it's still going to have that World War II flavour, of course it is, just being a year after. So that's what was read, and that was what I explained in the history lesson, so please forgive me if you think otherwise, but it's a strange thing because it wants you to sort of believe that it's World War II, and the fact that, which we're going to check out in a minute, you've got the pillbox that is part of the part of this wall here. But as we know before, history can be quite deceptive, so please don't take that as a given. But this just looks like, for all intents and purposes, a farmhouse. I mean, it did mention farmhouse. Doesn't feel anything differently. The other thing that you could mention to sort of give it credibility that it wasn't part of the original airfield is that, as we've seen before, and as probably fellow explorers know, farm owners, when they get their land back, will take from whatever construction was pre-built, normally World War II, sometimes Cold War, and they'll use it in their own storage and buildings. So yeah, but what we're saying is, for this airfield, although it looks very impressive, that actually it probably was pre-built over the top of an original structure. And like we said before, 1946 is literally a year after, but they do look like little generator blocks. So like, what we're trying to say is that this could still date to the airfield. It's just that what we're looking at is going to be, well, just a year older potentially. But blue circle cement, like I said, it's interesting, like I said, from a perspective of coming from Kent and especially Medway, to see when you see a blue circle cement company little logo on there. I'm sorry I can't get any closer on that, but yeah, blue circle cement, there you go, WH up on that. It was 1946, and like I said again, I'll just reiterate this just for everybody. There was 2 historical confirmations that dated this to being after the use of the airfield, or being built after the use. And like I said, I just don't, we've been to airfields, or definitely I have, and it's, even I feel when I'm here, it doesn't give me any form of World War II sort of comfortable sort of ness. You know, it doesn't make me feel like I'm in World War II. But then, like I said, if you look at the bricks for that pillbox, and you look at some of that, like we said before, you see there's some bricks there. Those bricks match the pillbox. And so with that, it gives us a clue that obviously this would have still been part of the airfield. And again, possible predating. There you go, isn't that interesting? So what I want to do now that we've had a little nosy is, what I'd like to do, did we go in there? Oh no, we didn't, did we? Oh, look at that. Yeah, so this is, whoa, look how deep that is. That is a water sump, I think, for storage. So there you go. I'll tell you what, it's sad really, because if anything got caught in that. Let me get your torch out. There you go. So obviously that was probably one of the bigger indicators to suggest that it's more farming than anything else. So there you go. Right, I think we should go to our pillbox. But there are many more pillboxes to discover on this, so let's take a look at this one first. Come on. Okay, so do you know what? I'm really looking forward to. There's a couple more pillboxes on this site, and if they're as good as this, I'm really excited. So this is technically a Norcon variation, and as you can see, I will put the link down below, by the way, of the Norcon air raid shelter, because these are the sewage pipes, or the pipes that they were famous for. And what you've done is they've put the pipe, turned it upwards. Obviously our air raid shelter was across, obviously. And they've put 2 next to each other, as you can see. Oh, sorry, it is a bit cramped in here. And then, as you go in, oh, lots of burning. That, everybody, excuse the wind. There's our pillbox, and it is, you could probably fit 2 people in here, one there and one there, but my concern with that is that there are other little slits that have been infilled, and it would be quite a tight squeeze, but you've got this ring around you so that you could kneel or rest any equipment that you needed on there. And then obviously you can see, interestingly enough, the concrete pipe doesn't fit to the top of the roof. They're really unique. I've never ever witnessed these ones before, and I've got to admit, after many years of going into many different pillboxes, even doing a video on pillbox variations, if you're really keen on my channel, you'd be like, oh wow, I'm such a loyal follower, because I remember him doing a pillbox variations one. These Norcon pillboxes, or variation on this one, because these are literal variations within a variation. Right? It sounds a bit silly, but normally they would just have singular ones, which again we will check out. There should be some on the site. Sorry about there we go. Saturation. Again, you can see what would have happened. Lots of concrete. Brick concrete cap over the top to go around in a semicircle. And then what they've done now, I'm assuming the farmer's done that for whatever reason, or they've just decided that they didn't need those. Obviously, we're not going to need one there anyway, facing inside the sort of what we'd call the farm. But then, like I said, the irony is you've got a slit here, which is by the entrance. So, you know, it makes no sense. It's almost like they've basically said, right, well, we'll cut out as many holes as possible, and then you can just decide where you want to place your gun. But what an incredible piece of history. Oh, God, blimey, I tell you what, I've lost weight, which I'm proud to say, but even then, you struggle fitting through one of them. You'd have a borderline child who'd have to squeeze through those. It's interesting because it almost looks like it wants to revolve. It looks like a revolving turret, but again, we've seen these sewage pipes here from the Norcon. It's absolutely fascinating. Again, if you've seen the Norcon video, you'll know exactly what it's about, and if not, like I said, I will put a link down below. But let's get out. Let's do it in. Let's not fuss about. Come on, we'll go. Blimey. The skills, the mad skills of this man to try and do this. Look at that. I'll tell you what a beautiful day. And I've got to admit, coming down here today, you can understand why they placed an airfield here, because it is just flat. I mean, I said it in the history lesson, it's got everything going for it. And then this is us looking out on our twin pillbox Norcon variation. Isn't that brilliant? And then obviously we can see this wall has been placed within that. I mean, that's the thing that makes me wonder about that building there, is that you can see that it's the farmer or whoever has designed that has literally moulded that into it. So I'm wondering if they were right, that they literally just took, that this wall probably might have been original, who knows. But the fact that makes me wonder that is because it's so well moulded into that pillbox. But then what you'll see later on is we will take a look and we will notice that actually the other pillboxes that stand alone, which are quite similar to that, are very interesting in their own right. And the fact that you've got that, and yeah, it's just really fascinating. And so, like I said, the airfield, like I said, started off as a grass airfield, and eventually moved to a sort of tarmac one. And then we'll probably find the perimeter as well. We've got to do a bit of walking today, so I'm just going to pace myself at the moment. But the reason why I'm walking down here is I might not go all the way. No, in fact, I probably won't, just because I know I've got a few bits to do today on here, so I'm not going to tire myself out unnecessarily. Not because I'm lazy, just want to clarify that. Well, some of you might debate that. Down there is the dip, and there's a flat area actually in the corner of the airfield. That is where the fuel stores would have been, or are still technically under there. and like I said before, they enlarged them, and you can see how pivotal they are to the airfield in terms of it being on the corner. But it's the only section of the airfield that seems to sort of dip down a little bit. It's not the most, if you come into the corner of this, it's definitely not the most even of airfields, but I was debating to go down there and show you that, but you can see this, it'll just be a few bits of pipe and everything else, unless I'm missing something huge down there. But then I'm only human, so forgive me. But yeah, this is the wall. It's fascinating how, like I said, you know, there's been more than one person who's noted that that cottage or farmhouse wasn't original, and because, like I said, there was a 1946 date placed on it. You know, fascinating. I'll tell you what though, sorry, just changing the subject. Oh, let me turn you around. Bloody nice weather today, actually, believe it or not. It's perfect weather. Just a little bit cloudy, but it's really good for exploring because you're not having a gale blowing in your face, it's not peeing down with rain, it's not too warm so you're not getting pestered because it's too hot. Or am I just sound like an old man? Probably sound like an old man, don't I? Anyway, we've got a few more things to explore, so we might as well just go and do it. Go on then. Okay, so this is the final section of this area that we're in before we move up a little bit further. And obviously you've seen that probably in the photos and the history lesson. Now these were designed to be lifted off when necessary, and I think the idea was that these would have been placed into a pit, and obviously the gun emplacements around here. So, but these are all just the lids from these, so it's interesting to note how well fortified they were. They're the lower ring sections of them as well. So yeah, we need to carry on, but we need to head a little bit further up. So bear with me, let's go do it. Right, okay. So I think I've just found the blast shelter. There's a blast shelter / air raid shelter here. In fact, looks like there's a couple. Wow. So, but what's really interesting about this is that the woods in which these lie seems counterintuitive, because there's where the airfield is, there's a huge strip of fence, and that sort of divides into that divides it in, so it's not an open field of where we're trying to get to. Sorry, spider's web. But yeah, so these are labelled as the blast shelters, so obviously corrugated on top. Lots of rabbits, God bless them. God bless them. Yeah. Simple in design, and yet potentially highly effective. There's a one there, and what's interesting is that they form a T. So that one comes in, and then that's its own section, and then this is its own section as well. Like I said, there wasn't a battle headquarters here or anything. It wasn't substantial enough. Like I said, it was really just a satellite training facility. So really, there was no need. Although, like we said, what makes this really interesting is how well fortified it actually is. I'll head out and I'll point to where the airfield is, because it's so strange. It is blocked by a hedge, but the airfield would have been on the opposite side where we've already been. But yeah, there's our little blast shelter. Hopefully you like that. So obviously you walk through, as you can see, and then in you get. Probably would have been corrugated, turfed up. Probably. There we go. Right. Okay.
Let's carry on.
Okay. Sorry, I was breathing as I was filming. Just come across this, which is right next to the blast shelter. In fact, actually, this was the first thing I thought it was. I thought, no, I'll take a look later on. There is a hell of a lot of World War II masonry debris here, and it makes me wonder what this was, because this could have been another type of blast shelter, or even an air raid shelter / bunker. Or it could just be that what the farmer's done has just used this as a tip, because it doesn't seem to be hugely in situ. And let's try and walk round. I'm very aware that because this one wasn't labelled, which makes it quite exciting, that it'll be a process of elimination. Let's try and get round. Oh wow. Huh. Well, it's not a pillbox. Well, whatever it is isn't. Jesus. Sorry, excuse. I was going to say excuse my profanity. Is it really profanity that? Look at this from the opposite side. Well, this wasn't on the records. I'm pretty sure we're going to have to be really careful because there is a lot of nature here. So I'm not going to preempt anything here. But yeah, look at that. That looks like a... sort of... If it was me, I would say that my first impression is it almost looks like an observation post that's collapsed in on itself. So that's the roof. And then you've got these beams, the internal sections there, that seem to have fallen in on themselves. But I can promise you, everybody, it's not underground as we'd know it. So interesting. Normally the concrete cap lies on top. Looks quite well buried in, so maybe it was... be interesting what this was actually. Maybe. It's definitely not a pillbox, too big. Could have been ammo stores, but there wasn't any ammunition needed really here, only for the pillboxes. And they would have been a lot smaller. And then our ancillary buildings and our everything else was not on this part of the woodland. As I mentioned before, it was on the children's activity area, which is in the adjacent wood on the opposite side of the road, which I'm obviously not filming because that's obviously being used as outdoor activities for younger kids. But all of those buildings that are on there, by the way, are still there. So I'm sure if you asked them politely, you could film them if you ever wanted to do that or visit them. And that was where all the officers and pilots were stationed. But because this is on the adjacent wood, so if I put my hand there and I said, right, well, roughly the opposite wood is there with the children's activity thing. We've got a main road that comes through, so on the opposite side of the wood. That's an incredible structure, but it's not a blast shelter. The blast shelter was definitely what we'd seen. Right, well, let's go find them other pillboxes. Come on. Okay, very briefly, I just want to show you this. I actually completely forgot about this, only because it's not in situ. So these are the grain silos. Hell hole apparently, but these are modern, so, or they were modern. Nothing much to see. You have to be really, really patient with your abandoned stuff. Lots of graffiti though, however. But yeah, just some silos. Nothing special. Well, might be special to some of you, not for me. Got more important things to look at. But yeah, there you go. Right, we've got to get to these pillboxes. Come on. Right. I can also just see the other one. I've just spotted it, so I'm not going to spend too long in here. But this is what we'd seen before. The idea was that you could remove the lid of these pillboxes, and then it gives you the opportunity to aim up. So what I'd read, and obviously now used for children to play in, which is brilliant. I love that idea. But the fact the lid's still on this one, the other ones are better. We'll have a look at in a minute. You can see the foundations. Beautiful, beautiful Norcon pillboxes. It's like a sort of dream for me to sort of visit these and just sort of be like, wow, okay. And the thing is that it's just, I mean, obviously these are in really good condition because obviously they're being used, but amazing, absolutely amazing. Right, let's just Won't take too long. We'll just take a look at the other one. Come on. Right, so this is our final one. We can't get into it because obviously it's locked, so we're not going to attempt to do that. We need to show maximum respect as possible. But we've been in these already. So we were in the ones that were down there. Interestingly enough, these are facing outwards. Also slightly inwards as well. The airfield is over there, or would have been over there. Interesting with that tinier, smaller Norcon one, it's facing outward that way. And then, yeah, that's it. Pretty cool. It's just such a beautiful sight to see these Norcon variations. Really happy that I got to do these and got to experience them, obviously, and to see these being repurposed, even better. So there you go. Right, I'm going to head out and I think we're done. Come on in. Well, there you go. That was RAF Southrop. What an amazing place for me to tick off those Norcon pillbox variations. To come to a satellite station, a training station that, for all intensive purposes, has still got some incredible remains. We saw the blast shelter. We saw the farmhouse with the other pillboxes. We saw all of those. We saw some bonus stuff which was interesting, set of rubble, which, whatever that was, could have been a proper air raid shelter. Who knows on that one? Very hard to tell. Or it could have just been leftover rubble, masonry from other bits of that area. The only thing that we didn't explore for obvious reasons was the living quarters, which we've obviously covered already. And that's pretty much it. Really hope you enjoyed this one, and as I mentioned before, maximum respect to places like this. And that's pretty much it, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Much love to all of you out there, because history matters, and it really does, doesn't it? And for me, it's just such a privilege to finally tick this off. Wasn't that really great to see those other pillboxes being repurposed? You can imagine as children, like what I was. We were all children once. The amount of joy and fun that would bring. I remember my friend used to say to me about, obviously if you're local from Kent, it used to remind me of New Tavern Fort in Gravesend. As a kid we used to sort of go up and around and see the guns put on the fort, but if you're not local for Gravesend then you wouldn't know what I'm talking about. But it always just reminds me of stuff like that, and obviously being taken as a child to Biggin Hill, and yeah, beautiful memories. And it's just so nice to see all that stuff repurposed, and I'm a big fan of that, obviously, as you know. Anyway, in more words of Phoenix history, because history matters, it really does. As I straddle the side of the former airfield, take care, much love to all of you out there, and I'll see y'all very soon. Goodbye for now. Kapow! See ya.